After exploring the whirlwind inside my head and heart, this next part of my story turns to the physical journey my body undertook. Tumor, and the treatments used to fight it, inevitably focus intense attention on the body, often in ways that feel difficult, foreign, and frightening. Here, I share my experience of facing surgery and other medical procedures, coping with the sometimes strange and challenging ways my body changed or reacted, learning the slow dance between necessary rest and gentle movement for healing, and surprisingly, arriving at a new appreciation for the simple miracle of physical existence. It's about the body as both the site of the battle and, ultimately, a source of incredible resilience. Is this really the start of the big fight? The worries I described in the last section were a constant hum beneath the surface, but soon the battlefield shifted. My journey moved from those intense internal struggles to very real physical confrontations. The time for waiting, for absorbing the initial shock, was over. Decisions needed to be made, procedures faced. It truly felt like stepping onto a battlefield, armed with little more than hope and trepidation. Is this really the start of the big fight? The question echoed silently as the first major hurdle approached, the brain biopsy. My surgeon, whose calm professionalism was a steadying force, explained the necessity of the biopsy to understand exactly what we were dealing with. He also explained it would be done while I was awake. Awake, for brain surgery. The idea itself felt surreal, plucked from some bizarre science fiction story. I remember steeling myself, trying to project calm, but inside, a part of me screamed in protest. Leading up to it, the worries were intense. How would it feel? Could I stay still? What if something went wrong? The procedure itself remains one of the strangest experiences of my life. There was the strange contraption fixed to my head to keep it perfectly still. Then, the drilling. It didn't hurt, thanks to local anesthesia, a fact I clung to gratefully, but the sensation, the vibration through my skull, imagine the dentist's drill magnified 1,000,000 times. It was deeply, profoundly uncomfortable. To cope, I focused on the medical team around me. I remember actually talking with the surgeon and his team during parts of it, even managing a joke or two, perhaps a defense mechanism against the sheer weirdness and fear. Their calm focus was reassuring, but I couldn't escape the unnerving reality of being conscious while my own brain was being operated on. It was an experience I prayed, with every fiber of my being, I would never have to repeat. A couple of tense days later, the results came back, confirming the presence and type of the brain tumor. Knowing for sure didn't bring relief, exactly, but it brought clarity. Now the enemy had a name. My surgeon discussed options, and we decided the best path forward was to consult with the oncologist first, potentially starting with chemotherapy and radiotherapy before considering major surgery later. Meeting my oncologist felt like meeting the general who would now command this war. She took charge with incredible competence and compassion, laying out the battle plan. It felt, strangely, like she became my quote-unquote manager in this fight, coordinating treatments, dosages, schedules, explaining everything. Having her expertise and clear plan felt like being handed a map, even if the terrain looked incredibly difficult. We were incredibly lucky to have her. One of the first steps was preparing for radiotherapy, which involved creating a custom-made plastic mesh mask molded perfectly to my face and head. Lying there while the warm plastic hardened around me, feeling completely immobilized, was another strange, slightly claustrophobic experience. But I understood it was necessary to ensure the radiation targeted only the precise areas needed. Then began the relentless routine of initial treatments, often daily radiotherapy sessions targeted at my head, and cycles of treatment including necessary pills, likely chemotherapy. This phase was grueling. The cumulative exhaustion after 5 or 6 weeks felt immense, like a weight pressing down on my very soul, a fatigue so deep it felt cellular. Weakness, dizziness that made the room spin unexpectedly, feeling perpetually cold even under blankets, waves of nausea that soured everything, and sometimes sharp aching bone pain. These became unwelcome daily companions. And about a week into the combined treatments, another strange reality began, finding my hair on the pillow in the morning. It wasn't falling out everywhere, mostly just in patches corresponding to where the radiotherapy beams were focused, but seeing it there was still deeply unpleasant. It was another concrete, unwelcome reminder that my body was undergoing something harsh, something invasive. Sleep became both a refuge and a necessity. I needed incredibly long hours just to function at a basic level, yet I'd still wake up feeling profoundly tired, as if I hadn't slept at all. My body felt heavy, weary, constantly signaling its need for a break it couldn't yet have. Some mornings, just the thought of swinging my legs out of bed felt like preparing for an Olympic event. Everything seemed to hurt, my knees especially feeling weak and unstable, barely able to hold my weight. I remember needing to stop every few meters sometimes, just leaning against a wall to gather the sheer energy to continue down a short hallway. And woven through all this physical struggle was the constant anxiety of the weekly blood tests. My arms certainly felt the strain from the constant needles, often feeling tired and sore. Finding a good spot for the next draw sometimes became a small challenge in itself. But far worse was the emotional weight each test carried. Would my counts be high enough? Would I be allowed to continue treatment this week? It felt exactly like facing a final exam, over and over, knowing that, quote, failing meant a delay, giving the enemy precious time. The surge of pure, unadulterated relief when the nurse confirmed the numbers were okay was almost overwhelming, quickly followed by the quiet dread building towards the next test. It was a draining cycle of hope and fear, measured out in lab results. During this whole phase, it truly felt like I was fighting for my life, not in some abstract future sense, but right now, in this hour, with this breath. Finding the sheer will to get up, to endure the discomfort, to face the hospital routine again, to swallow the necessary pills, including chemotherapy, to lie still under the radiation machine day after day, to brace for the next blood draw, it demanded everything I had. Each completed day felt like a hard-won victory, a successful repelling of the forces of exhaustion and despair. And the thought of an upcoming, scheduled break in the treatment cycle? That wasn't just looking forward to rest, it felt like anticipating reaching an oasis after being lost at sea. The anticipation brought this intense, almost painful wave of happiness, inextricably tangled with the profound, bone-deep exhaustion earned in these preliminary battles. Yes, this was undeniably the war begun. Stepping onto the battlefield is one thing. You brace for impact, you focus on the fight ahead. But what about the quiet moments? The ones that happen in the stillness between the major events, when the world isn't watching. Those are often the hardest battles of all. Join me this coming Thursday as we navigate the world between battles, pills, panic, and purpose. If this story feels important, sharing it with someone who might need it would mean the world. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. And for the complete journey, you can always find the link to the full book in the description below.